The traitor you despise didn't just cede a patch of land. He carved out the very lifeblood of the Central Plains dynasty and fed it to the wolves of the north. You were once a pillar of the later Tang court, but your towering achievements made you a thorn in the side of the new emperor, Li Kongke. To save your life, you feigned a grave illness and secretly sent your wife and son to Taiyuan. Just as you prepared to rise in arms, 30,000 imperial troops marched upon your city, besieging you in a lonely fortress. Cornered, you gritted your teeth and wrote a humiliating plea. I beg the Father Emperor to send reinforcements. Your son is willing to cede the 16 prefectures of Yanyan in return. The Khitan cavalry arrived as promised, cutting a bloody path for you and helping you ascend the throne. But when you knelt in front of Yelu de Guang, only 34 years old, crying out, "Long live Father Emperor," the wails of the people outside, in those 16 seated prefectures, shattered the imperial seal. Night after night, you dream of Li Kongke clutching the jade seal as he leaps into the flames, his curse echoing from the inferno. Sun Emperor, Shi Jingtang, a name forever spat upon. The autumn nights in Jinyang pierce to the bone. You lie on a cold bed, listening to the north wind sweep through the bare branches, howling like ghosts. That sound worms into your ears and coils around your heart, like the rumors swirling in the palace at Luoyang. The new emperor, Li Kongke, whom you helped ascend the throne, now sees you as a mortal threat, simply because your name is Shi, because you command the armies of Heidong, because you were once his brother-in-law. Blood ties and power, once your shield, have now become the noose tightening around your neck. My lord, your trusted strategist, Song Weihan, speaks in a low, tense whisper that crashes like thunder in the empty chamber. A secret report from Luoyang. His Majesty has issued a covert edict stripping you of your command in Hedong, transferring you to Tianping Army. This is a demotion in disguise and a prelude to your death. Your eyes snap open, a blade-like glint cutting through the darkness. Stripped of command, seizing power, Li Kongke, is this cup of poison now mine to drink? A vision of Zhang Jingda's severed head sent to Luoyang, at full gallop flashes in your mind. He was the last obstacle before Li Kong's rise to power. A chill rushes up your spine, colder than the autumn winds of Jinyang. Weian, your voice rasps like sandpaper. If I obey the edict, I'll end up like Zhang Jingda. If I refuse, you pause, your throat working painfully. That's treason. Sang Weian falls to his knees with a thud, his forehead pressing against the icy floor. My lord, life or death hangs by a thread. There's no room for hesitation. The Imperial Army is already on the move. Delay and disaster will strike. Jinyang may be strong, but one city cannot hold forever. One city. The words stab into your heart like an ice pick. You, Shi Jingtang, who spent half your life in armor, who bled for the later Tang and its empire, are you now to die caged in a lone city, waiting for the executioner? Rage and despair churn in your chest, hot and choking. You cough violently, as if to rip your lungs out. But through that racking fit, your mind hardens into a single, fierce resolve. Escape? Never. There's no run in your vocabulary, Shi Jingtang. Cough, cough, rise. You wheeze, your gaze sharp as a hawk's. Send word. Shi Jingtang is gravely ill, bedridden, unable to manage affairs. Shut the gates. No visitors. You lock eyes with Sang Weian, flames of desperation burning there. And dispatch our death warriors under cover of night escort, my wife and son, to Taiwan. Quietly, No one must know. A flicker of shock crosses Song Weihan's face, then hardens into determination. As you command, my lord. Take care. He slips away like a silent cat. The tension in Jinyang tightens like a drawn bowstring. News of your fatal illness spreads like a plague. Inside the city, your trusted generals, Lu Jiwan, Du Chongwei, sharpen their blades, fortify the defenses. The air itself feels strung, taut, ready to snap. Outside, Li Kong's envoy arrives, arrogant and sharp-tongued as he reads the imperial edict of transfer. His eyes dart over your sickbed, seeking the truth. You lie, swathed in brocade blankets, your face waxen, breath faint, racked by hacking coughs that send him recoiling, hand clamped over his nose. The act must be flawless. Soon after the envoy departs with your plea for a delay, gravely ill, unable to travel, a midnight storm of hooves shatters the silence. A scout, drenched in blood, tumbles from his horse, collapsing at your feet. My lord, terrible news. The Imperial Army, Zhang Jingda as commander, Yang Guangwan as deputy, 30,000 troops they've reached Jinan Fort, less than 100 li from Jinyang. What? You bolt upright from the sickbed, the sickly pallor replaced by iron fury. Li Kong, you won't even give me a breath to live. 30,000 elites, Jinan Fort. That's the southern gate to Jinyang. Jiang Jingda Li Kongka's most loyal hound. He's here to crush me with a single, merciless blow. That flicker of hope dies, smothered by the grim news. A bitter taste rises in your throat, you swallow it down hard. Jinyang's walls are tall, its granaries full, but you have barely 10,000 troops fit to fight. Facing an army thrice your size, backed by imperial might, how long can you hold? A month? 2? In the end, the city will fall, heads will roll, your family will be slaughtered. Despair surges like an icy tide, drowning you. You stagger up to the city tower. The late autumn wind slashes your face like knives. Peering into the distance, you glimpse the flags of Jinan Fort looming under the gray sky like a beast bearing its fangs. Behind you, Lu Jiuan and Du Chongwei watch with tense, anxious eyes. The air is so heavy it's hard to breathe. My lord, Sang Weihan's voice rasps behind you, carrying the weight of desperation. We're out of time. The only way is to borrow strength. Look across the land. Who else but the Khitan could break this siege and make Li Kongke back down? Khitan. The word sears your soul like a red-hot brand. Those wolves from beyond the frontier. The age-old enemies of the Central Plains. Asking them for aid is like drinking poison to quench thirst. You whirl around, your eyes bloodshot, teeth clenched so hard you taste blood. Weihan, do you understand? This is inviting wolves into our home. It's a curse for all eternity. Song Weihan meets your gaze, then drops to his knees with a heavy thud, his forehead striking the cold stone. My lord, of course I know. But if we don't borrow Khitan's strength today, tomorrow Jinyang will fall and the Shi clan will be ground to dust. A curse is still better than a severed head. I beg you decide now. If you delay, all is lost. Liu Jiwan, Du Chongwei, and the other generals drop to their knees, armor clanging, their eyes burning with the will to survive and absolute trust in you. The wind whips at your sleeves, snapping them like banners. You gaze south, where the enemy flags grow clearer, symbols of death and destruction, then turn back to the loyal men kneeling before you. Life and death, loyalty and betrayal, honor and survival, these thoughts clash and tear at your mind. Li Kongke has pushed you too far. He wants me dead. He wants to wipe out the Shi clan. The fury, born of desperation, mingled with a feral will to survive and boundless hatred, erupts in your chest like a volcano, burning away every shred of hesitation. Infamy. As long as I live, as long as I can seize back power, as long as I can sit on that dragon throne in Luoyang and make Li Kongge taste despair, what's a little disgrace? You squeeze your eyes shut, sucking in a breath of icy, cutting air. When you open them again, only a cold, almost mad resolve remains. Bring me a brush, ink, silk. Your voice grates like metal on stone, every word dripping with bloodlust. White silk is spread across the desk. You raise the wolf hair brush. Its tip feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds, trembling slightly. The brush, heavy with ink, hovers over the silk. You can almost see your ancestors glaring from the shadows. Hear the cries of countless soldiers on the frontiers. Feel the breathless tension of the generals behind you. Once you set this brush down, there's no going back. Gritting your teeth, you drive the brush to the silk with all your strength, piercing the fabric. To His Majesty, the great Khitan Emperor, I, Shi Jingtang, military governor of Hedong, am besieged in a doomed city, framed by traitors, abandoned by the Son of Heaven, with death at my doorstep. I humbly beg your Majesty to remember my loyalty and dispatch heavenly troops to break the siege. If your Majesty shows mercy and helps me survive this calamity, I, Shi Jingtang, will serve your Majesty as a son serves his father, with unwavering loyalty, forever a vassal of the Northern Court. I am further willing to cede the Lulong Circuit and all the prefectures north of Yanmen Pass, later known as the 16 Prefectures of Yanyan, to your Majesty. As my offering of gratitude, my heart is laid bare. Heaven and earth bear witness. Shi Jingtang, prostrate and bleeding. The words serve as a sun, burn like a branding iron, making your hands spasm violently. The humiliation coils inside you like a venomous serpent, gnawing at your guts. To cede 16 prefectures. That's the backbone of the Central Plains, the Great Wall, the shield built with the blood and flesh of countless soldiers. Your heart bleeds, darkness swirls before your eyes, but the primal will to live crushes everything else. The brush dances like a crazed dragon, and when the final character is written, you collapse into your seat, drained, gasping for breath. Cold sweat soaking your robe. Wei Han, your voice is hoarse. Send our most trusted man with this blood-written letter. Ride through the night, cross the border, deliver it to the Khitan Emperor. Tell him, if he's a moment late, all he'll find is Shi Jingtang's corpse. Sang Weihan's hands tremble as he takes the silk, heavy as a millstone, his eyes brimming with tears. He bows deeply, knocking his head against the floor. I will stake my life on this. Then he vanishes into the shadow of the tower, as if plunging into an abyss. Waiting becomes torture, each moment like simmering in boiling oil. Outside Jinyang, Zhang Jingda's army builds camps, digs deep trenches, sets up rows of wooden stakes. Siege engines rise out of the swirling dust. Every day, there are probing attacks, and the rolling logs and stones on the walls are consumed at a terrifying rate. The defenders' faces are etched with exhaustion and fear, while panic and rumors spread like wildfire inside the city. You force your sick body to inspect the defenses each day, your rasping voice straining to rally the troops, while inside you feel like a volcano ready to erupt, your soul teetering on the edge of despair. Yelu Daeguang, will he come? Will he accept the shameful title of Sun Emperor, and the land soaked in Han blood and tears? On the 10th evening, the dying sun stains Jinyang with a sinister red. The soldiers on the walls, exhausted to their core, clutch their spears and shiver in the biting wind. Suddenly, on the far northern horizon, a cloud of dust surges into the sky, vast and dark, like a storm swallowing the heavens. It moves at terrifying speed, like a black tide sweeping south. Then the earth begins to tremble, a low, thunderous rumble rolling closer and louder, until it becomes a deafening roar that shakes heaven and earth. "They're coming! Cavalry! It's the Khitan Iron Cavalry!" A lookout screams from the watchtower, his voice cracking. The entire city of Jinyang is jolted awake. You dash to the highest point of the city wall, your heart pounding like it will burst from your chest. Looking north, you see an ocean of horsemen surging across the plains, a tide of destruction. Black war flags bearing wolf head emblems churn like dark clouds amid the dust. Countless Khitan riders, clad in leather armor, wielding curved blades and longbows, mounted on towering war horses, an unstoppable tide of steel and fury, are sweeping toward the imperial camp south of Jinyang. Zhang Jingda's camp erupts in chaos. Bugles blare, drums clash wildly. The soldiers, who moments ago were preparing siege engines, are thrown into sheer panic by this sudden, brutal strike from the rear. They scramble to form ranks, but their hastily arranged infantry lines are as fragile as paper before the Khitan cavalry's onslaught. "Kill!" The thunderous cries of battle, laced with Khitan war shouts, sound like the bells of hell. Iron hooves smash through wooden barricades as if crushing dry twigs. Arrows pour down from the galloping horsemen like a swarm of locusts, drenching the imperial lines. The Khitans' piercing charge tactics unleash pure devastation. They are like 1,000 red-hot blades, slicing again and again into the chaotic imperial ranks. Each charge brings clouds of blood and severed limbs. You stand frozen atop the wall, your blood running cold. The scene before you is a living hell. You see soldiers trampled into pulp under the hooves, fleeing men decapitated with a single/wooden palisades crashing down under the brutal force, and flames roaring skyward. Smoke billows, blotting out the dying sun, the air thick with the stench of blood and burning flesh. "Open the gates!" A hoarse yet exhilarated voice explodes beside you. It's Lu Zhiyuan. His bloodshot eyes blaze like a predator scenting blood. "My lord, the moment is here. A chance of a lifetime. Let me lead our troops out, join with the Khitan, and crush Zhang Jingda." You snap back to yourself, watching the Khitan cavalry tear through the Imperial Army's defenses like a storm, watching the enemy lines collapse. A surge of wild joy and killing intent floods your mind. "Li Conca, you wanted me dead? Today, I'll send your hound to hell first. Open the gates!" Your voice cracks with frenzy, shrill with madness. "Lu Zhiyuan, Du Chongwei, take every elite soldier of Hedong right out. Kill them all. Leave no one alive." The heavy gates of Jinyang thunder open. The Hedong elites, pent up for days, roar like a bursting flood, eyes blood red as they charge into the shattered imperial camp with gleaming blades. What follows is a slaughter with no suspense. Trapped between two armies, the imperial troops collapse completely, throwing away helmets and armor, scattering like headless flies, only to be cut down by Khitan sabers and Hedong spears. Under the desperate protection of his personal guards, Zhang Jingda tried to break out to the southwest, only to crash straight into the Khitan's elite Pyroom cavalry, and was swallowed up in an instant. Seeing all was lost, the deputy commander, Yang Guangyun, betrayed his forces on the spot, beheading several officers who refused to surrender and kneeling toward the Khitan to offer submission. As the sun sank completely below the horizon and darkness spread across the land, the southern fields of Jinyang lay littered with corpses, blood running like rivers. The flames from the burning camps rose high into the night, casting a sinister glow over the cold faces of the Khitan riders and the wild, desperate elation of the Hedong troops who had survived. In the thick air, only the groans of the dying and the shrieks of circling vultures echoed, while you stood amid the carnage, your boots sinking into the clotted blood beneath you. The Khitan Central Army parted slowly, revealing a group of fierce, heavily armored knights surrounding a lone young figure. He sat astride a magnificent black warhorse, clad in sable fur and crowned with gold, his face sharp and stern, his eyes as piercing as a hawk's, radiating a natural air of command and supremacy. He was the Khitan Emperor, Yelu Daguang, only 34 years old. "Behind you," Sang Weiyan's voice trembled with excitement as he whispered, "My lord, it's His Majesty the Khitan Emperor. Hurry, go forward and pay your respects." "Pay respects?" You stared at that youthful but overbearing face, and the words, "Father Emperor," from your blood-written plea seared your mind. A wave of shame, fear, and twisted gratitude surged through you like a violent storm. Your legs felt weighed down with lead, each step like walking on red-hot iron. The Khitan generals and soldiers around you fixed their cold, probing, and faintly mocking stares upon your back, each glance a steel needle piercing your flesh. At last, you stood before Yelu Daguang's horse. The mixed scent of leather and sandalwood from his attire filled your nose, and his gaze, lofty and crushing, made it almost impossible to breathe. You could see every jewel on his golden crown glinting in the firelight. Time seemed frozen, the burning fires atop Jinyang's walls, the still warm blades of the Khitan cavalry, the blood-soaked earth beneath your feet, and behind you, your silent Hedong officers, all waiting for your move. All of it, weighed down on your shoulders, pressing onto your knees. You close your eyes, summoning the last of your strength to sweep aside hesitation and shame. Then, with a heavy thud, you drop to your knees before Yelu Daguang's horse. The cold ground, soaked with blood and mud, instantly seeped into your brocade robes. You bent low, pressing your forehead to the sticky, blood-scented earth. With all the strength you had left, in a voice that was almost a wail, yet chillingly clear, you cried out, "I, the Sun Emperor Shi Jingtang, bow to my Father Emperor. Long live Father Emperor! Long live 10,000 years." At the moment those words left your lips, you felt something hard within your chest shatter completely, leaving only a void of cold, hollow death. Yelu Daguang sat tall on his horse, looking down at the Central Plains warlord, 13 years his senior, who now debased himself as Sun Emperor. His face was expressionless, as if carved from ice. Only a fleeting glimmer, part satisfaction, part scorn, flickered in his deep-set eyes. He slowly raised a gloved hand, and in a low, commanding voice that echoed across the battlefield, said, "My son, rise." Those two words were both a pardon and a brand. The Khitan generals around you let out a low, suppressed laughter, thick with cruel amusement. Behind you, Liu Zhiyuan and Sang Weihan bowed their heads, unable to meet your eyes. Under Yelu Daguang's cold gaze, you slowly, painfully rose from the ground, the blood and mud on your knees like stains of shame that could never be washed away. Just then, a chorus of wailing erupted, tearing through the night like a wind from the depths of hell. It came from the north, from the direction of Yanmen Pass, from the lands of Yunzhou, from the 16 prefectures. The sound struck your ears and heart like a hammer, each blow filled with despair and pain. It was the cry of the countless Han, people from the land you had sold away, a cry of accusation against the betrayer, a lament for a lost homeland. The wailing pierced the battlefield's chaos, pierced the mocking laughter of the Gitans, and pierced the cold shell of survival you had just built around yourself. You jerked your head up, staring into the deep darkness of the north, your body shaking uncontrollably. The cries seemed to form an invisible giant hand that gripped your heart and squeezed until you couldn't breathe. You opened your mouth to speak, but only a ragged wheeze came out, like a broken bellows. Yelu Degwang watched your collapse with icy detachment, the faintest curve on his lips, before he turned his horse and rode away, surrounded by his guards. You were left standing there, rigid as a puppet without a soul, drowning in the desperate wailing from the 16 prefectures. The Khitan blades had carved a bloody road to the dragon throne for you, and with Yelu Degwang's approval and the crushing might of his army, nothing stood in your way. The later Tang cities crumbled before your combined forces like rows of dominoes. Finally, the gates of Luoyang Palace crashed open before you. Li Kongke, the emperor who once hounded you into a corner, clutched the imperial jade seal and ascended the Xuanwu Tower of Luoyang. Flames roared into the sky, consuming him and the seal, the symbol of heaven's mandate. Through the blaze, you could almost hear his curse, shrill and venomous, clinging to your soul like maggots on bone. Sun Emperor Shi Jingtang, may you be damned for all eternity. Under the Khitan Father Emperor's investiture, you took the throne, proclaiming the new dynasty of Jin, establishing the capital at Kaifeng. In the Golden Hall, the officials bowed and shouted, "Long live the Emperor!" The dragon throne beneath you was hard and cold. The splendid imperial robes gave no warmth. Every time the hall echoed with cries of, "Long live the Emperor," you could hear, twisted within it, the endless wails from the 16 prefectures and Li Kongke's curse from the flames. That curse coiled around you like invisible chains, tightening with each day. You could not sleep at night. Whenever you closed your eyes, you would see Li Kongke clutching the jade seal as he leapt into the sea of fire. The crimson flames would twist and leap, and slowly they would form the cold, youthful face of Yelu Degwang. He would gaze down at you, his thin lips parting to mouth 2 silent words, "My son." Cold sweat instantly soaks through your heavy robes. You jolt upright, gasping for breath, your heart pounding like war drums. In the vast silence of the sleeping hall, the only sound is the eternal wailing of the people of the 16 prefectures, echoing from the depths of your soul, tormenting you night after night, until you are nothing but skin and bones. To hold on to this throne bought with your soul and land, you are forced to shower your Khitan Father Emperor with every form of flattery. The yearly tribute alone, 300,000 bolts of silk and silver, feels suffocating. On every festival, on the Khitan ruler's birthday, you must empty the treasury, sending mountains of treasures north. Each envoy carrying a humble proclamation from the Sun Emperor, who grovels in the dust. Yet Yelu Degwang's appetite is bottomless. Khitan envoys strut arrogantly through the central plains, as if walking in their own backyard, demanding endlessly. If their whims are not met, they lash out with harsh rebukes. The court and the people seethe in silence. In their eyes, behind the forced obedience, simmers a current of scorn and humiliation that makes you feel like you are sitting on a bed of needles. What tears your heart most is the land you severed the 16 prefectures of Yanyun. That invisible wound bleeds day and night, draining the lifeblood of the Central Plains. The Khitans have locked their grip on this northern shield, clutching the throat of your Jin dynasty. Their raiders often sweep southward as if wandering through their personal hunting grounds, pillaging at will across Hebei and Hedong. Every time a border beacon flares, it is as though a knife twists into your heart's wound. All you can do is send envoys again and again, bearing more silk and silver, bowing and pleading with the Father Emperor for leniency. The petitions of Lu Jiwan and other generals, begging for the chance to reclaim the lost lands, are crushed beneath your trembling hand, met only with the growing disappointment and coldness in their eyes. The relentless torment of mind and soul gnaws at your life, like twin serpents, hollowing you out day by day. The body that once drew hard bows and wielded heavy spears is now but an empty shell, your face ashen, eyes sunken, the coughing fits growing more violent, each one threatening to tear your lungs from your chest. Imperial physicians come and go, replaced again and again. Precious medicines flow into the palace like water, yet vanish without a trace, bringing no relief. You know this is not a sickness that herbs can cure. It is a wound that will never heal, a soul torn apart under the crushing weight of being both Sun Emperor and traitor. At last, on a bleak winter's day, the sky over Kaifeng hangs low with leaden clouds, pressing the breath from the air. You lie on the dragon bed, and even the heavy brocade quilts cannot drive away the bone-deep chill. Each breath rasps like a broken bellows. Darkness swims before your eyes, and fragments of memory flicker Junyang's desperate walls. The flood of Khitan cavalry, Yelu Daguang's icy gaze, Li Kankei's twisted face as he leapt into the fire, and above all, the endless, deafening wails from the 16 lost prefectures. "Father Emperor," you murmur unconsciously in your fevered delirium, your voice faint as a mosquito's buzz. Beside the dragon bed, Sang Weian, once the mastermind behind borrowing troops and ceding land, now stands with hair gone white, his old face wet with tears. He clasps your withered hand, feeling the tremor in your skeletal fingers, hearing your broken murmurs. His heart is slashed to ribbons. He knows that Father Emperor is no longer a strategy for survival, but a nightmare etched into your bones, a noose strangling your very soul. You suddenly open your eyes, but your pupils are clouded, as though you can see through the palace roof to the northern horizon. Your lips quiver, as if trying to utter one final cry, but all that escapes is a long, heavy sigh. 16 prefectures. The sound cuts off. Your withered hand falls limp, and the eyes, once burning with ambition and struggle, lose their final glimmer. Deathly silence fills the hall, broken only by the howling northern wind outside, like the eternal lament rising from the lands of the 16 prefectures. Shi Jingtang is dead. The Sun Emperor lives on.